A single coat of paint on a flat roof can do the work of an air conditioner. Not approximately, not metaphorically. Measured in watts per square meter, published in peer-reviewed journals, verified across hundreds of buildings over 3 decades, the surface it covers does not just absorb less heat. Under the right formulation, it actively sheds heat into outer space through a gap in the atmosphere that almost nothing else on your roof can reach. No moving parts, no refrigerant lines, no monthly utility draw, paint. The logic behind it predates written language. Every Mediterranean civilization figured it out independently. In the hill towns of southern Spain, buildings have been whitewashed every spring for over 1,000 years. In the Atlas Mountains of Morocco, villages built from pale limestone held interior temperatures steady through summers that cracked 100 degrees outside. Those white walls were not aesthetic. They were engineering, thousands of miles apart, thousands of years of independent practice, all converging on the same answer. White surfaces keep buildings cool. And when researchers finally tested this with modern instruments, the numbers matched what tradition promised. In 2011, white test plots on the roof of the Museum of Modern Art in Queens, New York, were measured at 40 degrees Fahrenheit cooler than identical plots painted black. Same roof, same sun, same afternoon. The only variable was color. If you are finding this useful, hit the like button. It helps more people find this information. What changed is that in 1902, Willis Carrier invented mechanical air conditioning, and from that point forward, the answer to heat was no longer a material. It was a machine that could be manufactured, installed, serviced, and billed monthly. Lime wash could not do any of those things. You buy it once for a few dollars, mix it with water, and paint it on. No technician, no warranty plan, no monthly utility draw. It is the kind of solution that makes perfect sense if you are trying to stay cool, and no sense at all if you are trying to build a business around keeping people cool. Starting in the early 1990s, a physicist named Hashem Akbari at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory began measuring what happened when you took a dark roof and made it white. Not modeling it, not estimating from energy bills, thermocouples on the surface, submeters on the compressor, data loggers recording every 15 minutes, month after month, in real occupied homes across Sacramento, Davis, Gilroy, and multiple sites in Florida. The results were not subtle. A home in Sacramento saw an 80% reduction in daily air conditioning electricity use. Not a typo, 80%. A school in Florida recorded a 25 to 35% drop in cooling energy. 3 commercial buildings across Central California showed 17 to 39% reductions. The Florida Solar Energy Center replicated the findings across 9 occupied homes and found significant reductions at every single site. All published, all peer-reviewed, all sitting in the Department of Energy database where anyone can download them today. If you are not subscribed yet, now is a good time. This channel covers exactly this kind of thing, solutions that exist, that work, and that nobody told you about. You do not need a national laboratory to see it work. A homeowner named David Mundy documented the whole thing on builditsolar.com. He had a 1,300 square foot dark shingled roof. Instead of buying $600 worth of elastomeric coating, he bought 2 bags of hydrated lime from the concrete aisle of his hardware store for $14 total. He mixed it with water and rolled it onto his roof in an afternoon. Before the coating, his attic hit 140 degrees on a summer day. After, it dropped to 100 degrees. A 40-degree reduction in attic temperature for $14 in one afternoon. His air conditioning barely cycled all summer. He published the temperature data, the process, and the cost breakdown. It is still freely available online. And yet, in 2025, the majority of American homes have dark roofs. The gap between what the data shows and what gets built is not a scientific mystery. It is a business model. A reflective coating applied once for under $300 generates revenue exactly once and then sits there doing its job for years. There is no service contract for white paint. There is no recurring billing. Compare that to a new central air conditioning system, $5,000 to $15,000 installed, $500 to $2,000 in annual electricity, a 15-year lifespan before you do it all over again. Every kilowatt hour it consumes generates emissions that make the problem it is solving incrementally worse. Then there is the layer most homeowners never think about. HOA covenants across the country explicitly restrict roof colors to earth tones: charcoal, weathered wood, deep brown, slate gray. Those are the colors that absorb 70 to 95% of incoming solar energy. They are the worst possible choice for a roof in a hot climate. And they are required. A white or high reflectance roof is a violation. Your neighborhood aesthetic code may be quietly requiring you to maximize heat absorption on the largest sun-facing surface of your home, and then pay to remove that heat with a machine every month for the rest of your life. According to the International Energy Agency, cooling already accounts for 10% of all global electricity consumption. By 2050, the global stock of air conditioners is projected to grow from 2 billion to 5.6 billion units. That is 10 new air conditioners sold every second for the next 25 years. The energy demand from cooling alone is expected to triple. That is not a market that reorganized itself around a coat of paint. Nobody sat in a room and decided to suppress reflective roofing. That is not how it works. The incentives just do not align. They never needed to. Here is what does exist right now. High reflectance white elastomeric roof coatings are available at any major hardware store. A 5-gallon bucket costs $60 to $120. For an average flat roof, you are looking at $250 to $500 in materials and a weekend with a roller. These coatings reflect 80 to 90% of incoming solar radiation. 3 decades of Lawrence Berkeley field data show they reduce cooling energy by 20 to 40% in most climates. On a home spending $2,000 a year on cooling, that is $400 to $800 back every summer. The coating pays for itself in the first season, but the product at the hardware store is not the ceiling of what this technology can do. It is the floor. In 2021, a research team at Purdue University led by Professor Xiaolin Ruan published results that did something no commercial coating had ever done. They spent 6 years evaluating over 100 candidate materials and testing roughly 50 formulations for each. What they arrived at was a paint using barium sulfate nanoparticles at a 60% concentration, with a deliberately varied range of particle sizes so that each size scatters a different wavelength of sunlight. The result reflects 98.1% of all incoming sunlight. Guinness World Records certified it. But the reflectance is not what makes it a different category of technology. The paint also emits thermal radiation in the 8 to 13 micrometer band of the infrared spectrum, what atmospheric scientists call the sky window, where the Earth's atmosphere is essentially transparent. Radiation at those wavelengths passes straight through the air and exits into deep space, where the background temperature is minus 270 degrees Celsius. The paint is not simply reflecting the sun away. It is pumping heat off the roof surface and ejecting it from the planet entirely. The result is a surface that drops below the surrounding air temperature in direct sunlight. Field testing recorded the painted surface more than 4.5 degrees Celsius below ambient during the daytime. At night, that gap widened to more than 10 degrees. The surface was cold to the touch on a hot afternoon. 1,000 square feet of it produces 10 kilowatts of continuous cooling power, comparable to the central air conditioning unit in a typical American home, consuming zero electricity. Purdue's own published paper calculated that coating just 0.5% to 1% of the Earth's surface with this paint could offset the warming effect of all carbon dioxide emitted to date. That is not speculation. It is a calculation based on the measured radiative output per square meter. CNN covered it. The Smithsonian covered it. Every major science outlet in the world ran the story. And then nothing changed. The paint is not on store shelves. It is not in building codes. It exists in a lab in West Lafayette, Indiana, in negotiations with manufacturers about scaling production. The gap between the science and your roof is not technical. It is the same gap that has existed since 1902. The gap is economic. Press your hand against a dark roof at 2 in the afternoon in July. That surface is running 150 degrees or higher. That heat is migrating through your roof decking, into your attic, through your ceiling insulation, and into every room below. Your air conditioner is running a marathon against it all day and losing slowly while the electric meter spins. A standard white elastomeric coating from the hardware store drops that surface temperature by 50 to 60 degrees. Your attic becomes manageable. Your compressor cycles less. Your bill drops. The coating pays for itself before summer ends. The version that goes further, the one that drops below ambient air temperature, that radiates heat into space, that could handle a meaningful fraction of your entire cooling load with no energy input at all. That version already exists. The science is complete. The peer review is done. The world record is certified. It just has not been allowed to reach you yet. If you learned something today, share this with someone who is still paying to cool a dark roof every single summer. If this is the kind of content you want to see more of, subscribe and leave a comment below.